Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate it. Listen, there's some things going on. Now, I do know that you guys sent your questions in, and I appreciate that, for my spirit guides to answer. If you're new here, I'm a psychic and a medium, and I have a cadre of political spirit guides that help me answer political questions. But I'm going to do your political questions in the next video because there's two things that are happening that are very fascinating that I think are really important. First of all, Trump hired a new attorney. Now, you guys might think this is news. I don't care. He always hires attorneys. They always quit or they get indicted or something, right? No, this is important. This is different, you guys. He's hired someone who goes by the hashtag billion-dollar lawyer, billion-dollar lawyer. This man has made his name. I mean, a lot of his name has been made representing rap stars in Atlanta. So it's interesting that Trump would hire him, given that Fani Willis is about to drop potentially some charges on Trump's cronies. You guys, this means that Trump is really worried about the charges coming out of Atlanta. There's no way any of us should overlook this. This is a big deal. This has portent. It means something. Okay. So now, and it means something because, well, not only because Trump is lawyering up in a big way, in a very different way, let's just say, but also because it's in Atlanta. And this is what the spirit guide's been saying. Fani Willis was going to take him out at the knees, right? So we need to kind of pay attention to this. Now, it's interesting if you look up this guy whose name is Findling, his Drew Findling, I think is his name. He has a history of representing and getting them off of charges. These very popular, well-known rap stars. But he also has made his name in getting people off of their charges. That would be sheriffs. I mean, you know, people that you and I think, well, maybe they should have paid a price. You know, I mean, he's represented some very controversial figures. Let's put it that way. Now, to thicken the plot more for you, this man doesn't like Trump. He has represented some controversial figures that you might say really went against his own views. This man doesn't like Trump. He's come out and said he doesn't like Trump. But yet here he is representing Trump. And when he was asked, why would you represent somebody that you've publicly come out and said, you know, terrible things about? He said, well, I have my personal views and I have my profession. My profession is separate, and I'm going to represent whoever I need to represent, regardless of my personal views. To give you an idea of some of the people that he has represented rather successfully, honestly, is he represented and got the acquittal of a sheriff in Clayton County, Georgia, who had been indicted on a host of corruption-related charges after an investigation by a special grand jury. Here we are, guys. This is exactly where we are. Fani Willis has already impaneled a special grand jury. She has their findings. Some of those findings were released last week. Same situation. This guy went against a prosecutor who had a grand jury findings already. I mean, you're already halfway to the verdict at that point. You know what I mean? The grand jury has already said, a special grand jury has said, yeah, there's a lot here. You have a good case. And yet, despite that, Mr. Findling was able to get this guy acquitted. And this sheriff had quite a lot of charges against him that were alleged mistreatment of detainees at the local jail. He had been suspended from his position and he got an acquittal. So this guy also, Mr. Findling, the attorney, also recently represented Mitzi Bickers, who has once worked in administration of the former mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, who's a Democrat. Miss Bickers was convicted in March of 9 federal corruption counts as part of a multi-million-dollar contracting and kickback scandal. Who does this remind you of? Right? Who does that remind you of? So he's representing Democrats, he's representing rappers, he's representing allegedly corrupt sheriffs. There's no, the man doesn't care, right? He doesn't care. He's going to represent you if he thinks that he can get you off of your charges. It's not about right or wrong. I think for him, it's about skill. He likes out-lawyering state-paid prosecutors who aren't billion-dollar lawyers, right? They're, whatever they make. He likes running them over. Now, he also likes hanging out with rappers. There's lots and lots of pictures. He has been basically hero worshipped by a lot of rappers. He's been on the stage with rappers. He's gotten them off. And this is how he's going to do it. This is why he's taking on Trump's case, is because he's actually going to use an argument that could be used in future rap star cases. Now, remember that Trump is friends with some rappers too, Kanye West, right? It's confusing for those of us that think that there's good and there's bad, right? You know what I mean? Like you're good or you're bad. Here, this attorney basically just blows that all to smithereens, right? Like half the time he's with people that we think are not good people for our society, and other times he is for people that are good people for our society. But I think his main thing is freedom of speech. That seems to be, if you were to find a thread in his work, I think you would have to say it's freedom of speech. And what he says is his argument is going to be, Trump was just having freedom of speech, just like a rapper has freedom of speech. The guy would say, just because he tweeted it doesn't make him a criminal. Now, maybe the act of made him a criminal, but we have these people that have violent threats, right? And then maybe nothing happens, but they do threaten violence. And this is the kind of guy who would say that's within your free speech, right? So his argument is going to be that Trump is a loser. He's a loser. He's a terrible guy, terrible president, but he should have free speech. And, I'm going to tell you guys that when I went into this energy and I asked my spirit guides, there's an energy here that suggests that everybody knows. Now, maybe Fani Willis doesn't know, and maybe, she's not the kind of person that would ever step back or step down from anything. This woman will never step down. And she has been the person, I would say historically, the first person who's ever brought up rappers on RICO charges. She uses the RICO charges to bring them to court to charge them, because Georgia, the state laws in Georgia have very strong RICO charges. RICO is racketeering. So if I go and I get you and I are involved in something, and then you call your neighbor, and then your neighbor's involved, and all of a sudden that's racketeering. It was meant to crack down on the mob or gangs, because then you could say there's a network of crime. So they couldn't just bring this one person down, because what's the cause? How is that going to help anything? We need to bring all of these people down. So we have this racketeering RICO charges. So Fani Willis, has been bringing people down using that law, because in Georgia, it's quite stout. So here you have Trump reacting to the fact that Fani Willis is impaneling we think she is. She has not announced this, but we think that she's impaneling a new grand jury that will not be secret, that will be public to the degree that it can and protect the drawers. And she's going to start going after his people. She's already subpoenaed Lindsey Graham and Rudy Giuliani. Now, to my knowledge, the legal people say in this grand jury, she's not going after Trump. But I feel like there's a separate grand jury specifically aimed at him. I think she is going after him. I just don't think it's in this particular next grand jury that she will announce the charges. For instance, Raffensperger is getting charged. Lindsey Graham is getting charged. Rudy Giuliani is getting charged. Basically, you guys, she's going to charge everybody but Trump. And the fact that Trump has lawyered up with a guy who specializes in getting RICO people that have been charged with RICO charges off, is a big deal. This is not a fly-by-night lawyer. This is a big guy with a big reputation. And you better believe that he's going to be banking his reputation on getting Trump off. And that's why the guides asked me to, and I actually wrote it down because they said democracy is on trial and Trump is the defendant. You guys, if we take Trump to trial and we don't win, it's over. Democracy is over. I mean, that sounds maybe hyperbole or fanatical or crazy. But I'm telling you, they are dismantling it brick by brick. And they've done a darn good job. And they're doing a darn good job of dismantling it within the states, banning books, going after Social Security, Medicare, going after women's rights, going after anybody who's not white, right? Anybody who's not heterosexual and white. Everybody else is got a target on them. Truly. So we're at this breaking point where I believe that Trump has lawyered up with the right lawyer. And I believe, and I think Garland does, and I think that everybody in the know thinks that this guy can get Trump off. And we can't have that. We can't allow that. We can't. We can have bad presidents. Okay, we can have bad presidents. We can have bad vice presidents. I'm thinking about Dick Cheney here. And certainly those leaders have left a scar on our democracy. And I mean a scar that you will read about that scar in history books if we have them in the future. If democracy stays, viable, then people will look back and see that rending, that scar on our democracy. This is not a scar. This is a potential, a fatal blow. So I think, and the guides have always showed this, right? Remember, if you've watched me for a while, the guides have showed me Trump is looking at me or at you, and then with their backs to me facing Trump are Fani Willis, E. Jean Carroll, Tish James, Garland. Garland is not in the lineup. It's just the three women. And then what happens is Garland reaches over the women and grabs Trump and says, he's mine, ladies, federal charges, Trump state charges. And so I never saw these three women being the actual catalyst that takes him out, but they certainly are the pressure, the mounting pressure on Trump and on the feds to do something. So here's where I would say that because, people often say you don't aim for the king unless you know you've got the shot. If you miss the king, it's over, right? I mean, you're over. Whatever your cause is over. It's over. So you don't take a shot at the king unless you really know you've got the shot. And that's Trump. I'm sorry to say that he's the king. He's not the king, but he is the defendant. Democracy is on trial and Trump is the defendant. If we don't deal with him, and I mean completely deal with him, then everything that all the grifting and everything he's ever done gets a green light. So in that way, democracy could be, threatened. So what I see happening is because Trump has this $1 billion lawyer who's by all estimations brilliant. Everybody calls him brilliant. And because he wants to use this argument of free speech, and by getting Trump off, he doesn't see it as killing democracy. He doesn't see it like that. Perhaps he's a libertarian. I don't know. But he sees it as letting the rappers have the freedom of speech that they should have. So he's going to equivocate rap lyrics or even rappers saying things that have gotten them in trouble with Trump saying things that have gotten him in trouble. He's going to equivocate those two things. And I think in his mind, there's something karmic, and I'll do another video about this because there's something karmic here that I can't quite get to the bottom of, but there's something karmic here about a lesson and a test. But right now, I would just say to you right now that what I think is going to happen is that Garland is going to reach over and take Trump. And I've always seen this, and I'm not backing down off of this. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right, guys? I mean, I'm not the oracle of all oracles, right? I'm doing the best I can to understand the energy and to translate what my guides are sending me through this human, very flawed human instrument, right? But what I know is that when I see something over a period of long time, that means the energy gets more and more entrenched or more and more settled or more and more potential for it to come true. So what I've seen for the past year or more is Trump in a house arrest kind of situation. Now, whether that is at Mar-a-Lago, I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think he could be that close to water. I mean, that's an escape route, to be honest with you. But I see him in a house arrest situation where he's wearing sort of PJ kind of things. And maybe it has the presidential seal. I don't care. If it's an iron-on presidential, I don't care. No one is going to have contact with him. This is the key component. He cannot have unsupervised contact. And the people that will be watching him will be vetted to the nth degree. Because we all know that you can grift from prison, right? I mean, some of these prisoners go in and come out richer than they were when they went in there, right? I mean, you can always find a guard or somebody that you can buy off, right? So that's why he really can't have hardly any contact, and he's not going to have contact, any kind of communication via phone, via computer. Honestly, I even saw that the windows were not real. They may have a pastoral scene of a golf course painted on them, but they're not real. They're wood or metal or whatever they are. It's just to give him a sense of not being under house arrest, but he's going to be under house arrest. We cannot put him in prison, people. We cannot do that. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot put an ex-president in prison. Who's his cellmate? Somebody that's got a connection to a dictator somewhere? Somebody's got a connection to an underground mob or cartel? It's not, you can't do that. It doesn't work. He's an ex-president. We have to deal with this differently. So I think that because I'm just going to say it, I honestly think that they one-upped Fani Willis. I didn't see that coming, but I think this guy wants to go toe-to-toe with Fani Willis, and I don't think Garland or the DOJ want that, because we don't want to lose. Now, I don't know how much. I don't know that I have 100% faith in Garland. I think I'm about 75% any given day. And, I guess potentially potentially something could happen, and that trial could go to court. But I don't feel good about it. And I think that we'll have to do some remedial work to fix whatever goes wrong. Meaning maybe it needs to go to the Supreme Court or something where we all know what's going to happen there, right? This is, I don't know how to import to you guys how critical this time is. I know we're all tired. We're tired of hearing about Trump. Tired. I didn't go looking for this information. The guides brought me to it. This is a critical time in our democracy. You know, people saying it's true. The coup happened on Jan 6, but it's been going on ever since. I mean, it hasn't stopped. It's just being that energy is kind of traveling in different ways, right? So I think that right now, what I think is that the DOJ will try to negotiate. We'll try to negotiate with Fani Willis to not charge him, and perhaps that she charges all the people around him. Think about a ring of fire around you. That's what Trump is going to feel like. Every person that is his inner circle is going to be on that witness stand, and they're not going. The billionaire lawyers not representing them. They are going to be toast. And Raffensperger is going to be toast. Lindsey Graham is going to be toast. Rudy Giuliani is already toast, but we'll go ahead and flambe him the rest of the way, I guess. So they'll allow that to happen to put the pressure on Trump. And that was the whole point, right? Those three women were putting pressure on Trump so that Trump would then feel like, I got to negotiate with the DOJ. I've got to negotiate with the DOJ. I got to get out of this situation. So he'll be likely to work with the DOJ. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, briefly, I want to talk about Biden going to Ukraine on President's Day, no less. That was a surprise for most of us, right? But and that took, cojones, that took balls of steel, if you ask me. He took a train for, I don't know, over 10 hours, I think, to get there. He flew into Poland and took a train. But if you thought that was, you thought that was something, if you thought that was some real, steel guts, we told Russia we were going. We told Putin, hey, by the way, the president of the United States is going to be visiting the president, whatever role he is, Zelensky of Ukraine. Just so you know. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. Right? Don't start no sh, won't be no sh. Y'all, that's some guts. And that's also pretty much telling the world that the United States is not afraid of Russia. We're not afraid of anything. If you do something to our president, we will take you out. End of story. We're not even concerned about it. The reason they told him is because there could have been an accidental, and truly, the way these Russians shoot bombs off is there's no tactical strategy. They literally just shoot it towards a city. It could very easily have happened accidentally that somebody bombed that train. And then we would have World War III. So the United States called Putin and said, if you don't want to be, basically blown to smithereens, stay away from this train. And there is Biden walking with Zelensky with air raid sirens going off. You guys, if that's not balls of steel, I don't know what is. And if the Democrats don't run with this and say, yeah, our president wasn't in Ohio because the Ohio governor didn't want to meet with him, didn't want the help, didn't want FEMA to come in and help because they don't want regulation, let's face it. Our president was out saving the world. The whole thing, not just Ohio. Stopping World War III. I mean, that's just phenomenal. Is that not just absolutely mind-blowing? That he decided to do this? Now, according to, you know, off the books comments by people that can't comment publicly, the Secret Service and his intel and his generals didn't want him to do this. They didn't want him to do this. He didn't need to do this. He didn't need to do this. He wanted to do it. He made it happen. I mean, imagine the boost if you're a Ukrainian, or if you're one of those European countries that surround Ukraine that have been, you know, like Poland. I mean, they've, you know, all those countries, Putin has made no bones about it. He wants to invade those countries. So imagine how you feel when the president of the United States takes a 10-hour train and walks into the Capitol when air raids are going off, after having told Putin that he was going to do it. Wow, that's some guts, you guys. That's some guts. And daring him, go ahead and blow my train up. And this is the energy I was talking about recently about Biden. He doesn't care. He's 80. He doesn't have any more F's to give, right? He doesn't care what anybody thinks anymore. He's doing what's best for the country. He's doing what's best for the world. And that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about optics. How is this going to look? Doesn't care. Doesn't care. He knows, there's this sense that he knows, and the guides have said this before recently, that he knows he has to get it done now, because tomorrow is not promised. Next month is not promised. Next term is not promised. He's 80. Every day that he wakes up and takes a breath, he's got to get it done. That's his sense about him. I've got to get something done today. Every day I've got to get something done. So that statesmanship, long view, will work it out, will, you know, all that's off the table for him. Every day is precious. Every day he needs to take steps towards his goals. Bringing America together, bringing jobs home to America, saving Medicare, Medicaid, rebuking racism and anti-Semitism and anti-everything, convincing us that we're all one, regardless of your sexual orientation or your culture or your name or your status as a citizen or the color of your skin. That is his mantle right now, helping people and bringing us together as a country. And frankly, he brought Europe together. He brought the whole European continent, the countries together to support Ukraine. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I would just say to you that this table is going to flip. These people are going to be charged. I do think that they're going to rescue Trump, but in doing so, we're also making sure he doesn't have an opportunity to win a court case. Because if he wins a court case, we're set back, decades. It'll take us decades to get control of the grift, because the grift will have been sanctioned by a judge or by the jury or whatever. And when I say sanctioned, what I mean is it's the law, folks. If you've ever been on a jury and your instructions were, you have to follow the law. Now, you might have known this person was guilty as all hell, but you had to follow the law and you had to find them innocent, because the way the charges were laid out to you, you had the charges and you had the law. That's all you could consider. So maybe this judge and maybe this jury want to indict him, but because of the slick lawyering, they might not be able to, because the attorney, the billion-dollar lawyer, is going to introduce doubt. beyond a reasonable doubt. If you have doubt, game over. You can't convict. And it's a lot easier to do than you would think. I mean, our law, we found out, right? Our Constitution and amendments are basically like a giant sieve. And these people, like the Federalist Society, have spent decades going through it with a fine-tooth comb to find every little tiny loophole. And then they've exacerbated that loophole. They've used that against us. The guides have often said, Russia, the Federalist Society, these people are using our own freedoms against us. And in this case, this guy's a free speech guy. This attorney's a free speech guy. Again, using our free speech against us. Trump didn't really mean it when he said, find me 11,000. Maybe he was just saying, if I only had 11,000, are you sure you can't? This, you can see this attorney saying, are you sure you don't have any more red shirts? I just need a red shirt and you don't have my size. Are you sure? Can you go look in the stockroom? How many of us have done that? Can you get it down? I know it's up there. I see it. I think I see the box. And they have to go get the and go up. And the whole time they're like, for the love of God, lady, I just need 11,000 votes. That's all. That's all I need. I'm sure you got them somewhere. Did you look real good? Do you see how easy it would be to reframe the crime? Right? Don't yell at me. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that there's wiggle room here. There's wiggle room, and we need an ironclad. And maybe that's why Garland has taken so long, because you cannot take this man to court and lose. You cannot. If you lose, it's game over. And then you and I are investing in a foreign language software because we're leaving, right? We can't have that. You can't take a pot shot. You can't be, I'm pretty sure I got it. I'm pretty sure. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. You need to have them so pinned to the wall that they say, Uncle, I want to plea. And it never gets to a jury. And that's where we are with the pressure on Trump. Let me know what you think. This is a developing story. I know there's going to be more to it. I know that it goes deeper. I didn't even get into the mind of this man. It goes a lot deeper, but I just wanted to throw this out there really quickly because this is important. These two things, I think, are somehow setting the stage for something bigger that's happening, right? Biden going to Ukraine and basically giving the middle finger to Putin is going to set the stage to this spring, where Ukraine is really going to finally win that arm wrestling match with Ukraine, with Putin. They're really going to cinch it. I think they're going to cinch it. I mean, the energy suggests that I've always said this. I've got 3 videos on Ukraine. You can watch them that I did at the very beginning, even before. Ukraine is always going to win. At what cost? But they're always going to win. And the other question is, when? Because every day that goes by, more is lost. So obviously, the sooner, the better. And we all know that Putin is on his way out. So a lot going on. A lot going on right now. You guys take really good care of yourselves. Okay, that's the most important thing. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And I'll get to your political questions next. All right, take good care. We'll talk soon. For entertainment purposes only.